Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment's being brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done to educate consumers, grow their practices, and to leave a legacy. I'm doing a series of spotlights on remarkable advisors across the country. Joining me on this segment is Jim Braun with Tri-State Retirement. Jim, welcome to the program.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Jim, tell us a little bit about your work and specifically who are the folks that you specialize in helping?
Well, for the last 15 years, we've dealt with people who are just trying to, that are getting close to retirement over about age 58 or so, leading up to, and then actually walking them into retirement and, getting those things set up. And as they get a little older, they have some pretty key years where they need to make some decisions. We kind of help people go through those, like at 62, 65, 67, 70, and now 72 with the new government regulations for taxes. So just kind of walk people through those decisions and make sure there's nothing missed. And our main goal is to reduce their expenses and raise their incomes through, smart planning. And we do a good job of it.
In that particular group of folks that you help, they must have like pretty specific challenges, something different. What are some of the biggest concerns that those folks have when they come to see you?
Well, shifting thinking kind of happens when you get a little bit closer to walking away from your job, and meaning, the money that you have saved becomes a lot more important. So, volatility in the market ends up stinging a lot more and keeping you up at night. So we mainly focus on preserving what you have, but not limiting your returns. And then being able to solve what we mainly focus on, which is called sequence risk, which is pulling money out of something that can actually go down and that it can go up as well. So when you manage that well, your accounts end up doing a lot better over time, and that preserves your legacy for your loved ones too.
Give us a little bit of insight with that particular group of folks. Why do they come to see you so late in the game? Have they been doing things on their own before, or are they wanting a second set of eyeballs on their financial houses? Or paint us a little bit of a picture of what brings them to come to see you this late in the game.
Well, what I tell people is, if you go to a typical advisor, it's not really a specialist, you get very blanketed advice. And so most advisors out there are dealing with people that are anywhere between 0 to 85 years old. And life changes quite a bit during those years. I mean, when you're working and you have a salary and markets have a crash, you can take some of your salary, maybe more than you normally would, and you can put it back into your investments and you can reap those benefits. Well, once you get closer to walking away from your job, then a 30 or 40% correction in the market ends up being a lot more money because you have more money in the bank. So then the time it takes for that to recover over the last 20 years or so has been 5 to 7 years to rebound from our down years. So when people have, they become like 58 years old or so, they need to think differently and be more conservative and use specific tools to have their returns stay high, but also preserve their balances because those down years end up hurting so much more when your account balances are as high as they have been. And when you lose 50% of your account balance, you have to make back 100% to get back to even. So it takes a lot of energy to rebound from those down years. So what I tell people is, you go from a general practitioner, which is like a typical advisor from the people deal with from 0 to 85 years old, to a specialist. So you wouldn't go to your general practitioner doctor, and if you thought you had cancer, maybe you would initially to get some really general advice, but then they would refer you out to somebody who just specializes in that particular area to get a little bit different information to heal you a little bit faster. So that's kind of what I tell people. And so the advice that they get from us is a lot different because the last 15 years we have dealt with just people over 58 years old. And, we deal with like Medicare and Social Security filings and taxes and, sequence risk, which is really important. I encourage everybody to look that up. And that's really our main focus, and it's kind of like a one-stop shop.
Has this pandemic shifted anything in strategies that you might advise, or has it just changed the insight and the perspective of your prospects and clients? How's the pandemic impacted people in your business?
Huh. Well, I would say people have had a lot of time to think about, their legacy, and they've had a lot of time to reflect on their decisions and things like that. So I would say the fear factor of things has gone up as well. Um, Kind of like when you have a child in school and the pandemic forces you to stay home. And these are stories I get from my clients all the time. And they get to go and look at the school and see that the school wasn't doing what they thought the school should be doing, and so they're changing schools around and making better decisions. So they're having a lot of time to think about their finances, and I think that breeds a lot of concern, but it also brings up some curiosity. So they look around to get some different opinions. And that's why I've got anywhere between 25 to 30 meetings every single week right now. But it's made us really busy. And so I think it's a good thing for us. And people seem to be really happy after dealing with us.
Jim, what inspired you to get into this field and help people with their financial houses? How did you get started?
In college, actually, I was doing a business degree, and then started, I had a mentor, and I saw some things that were happening in the industry that I didn't really particularly like, and I thought I could do it better. So I created Tri-State Retirement to make us a truly independent broker, which there's not too many of them anymore, which allows us to be maneuverable and be able to go pick funds from any brokerage house we deem necessary. And so it makes us really competitive, and especially in our tri-state area. So it works out really well. And I would say that just seeing things and seeing how, you have the fiduciary rule coming up as well, which is going to be forcing advisors to give their best advice to clients. We've been doing that for 15 years. So now that's good for the entire industry to put pressure on those big name guys, because they kind of have an agenda behind them a little bit, because they do have to pay for their brick and mortar stores and their salaries and things like that. So I'd say that we've been doing the same thing for the whole time, but it's seeing people having to become a fiduciary is really shaking things up quite a bit. So um, I think I think that's kind of why I think it's why it was nice to create this company in general, was just to be the most competitive possible with the things that are available in the United States.
Before I ask you my last question, Jim, you mentioned fiduciary. That brings up the point for folks listening that know they need to, get their financial houses in order, but they aren't quite sure where to start, or they've been overwhelmed with a lot of information and misinformation out there. What would you say is the most important thing folks should consider when choosing an advisor to work with, especially when they're nearing retirement?
Oh, that's an easy one. I don't know why this is happening, but sequence of returns risk is the number one factor for people retiring, period. And for whatever reason, when you go to your advisor now and you ask them for a solution to sequence risk, they just push the answer under the rug. They don't have an answer for it. So that's why we focus most of our attention on preserving what you have, being able to live off of it, and not blow up your balance by doing so. And that in turn takes care of your heirs, and preserves your legacy. So I would say absolutely sequence of returns risk is something everybody should look into.
Great insight. Thanks, Jim. For folks listening now that would love to speak with you, how do they find you, connect with you, and learn more?
A few different ways. There's an 800 number. It's 1-888 Jim Braun, JIMBRAUN. Or if you'd like to schedule it yourself, then you can go to JimSchedule.com. Makes it really easy on you.
Terrific. Jim, I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing with my audience today, and I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mark. I'll talk to you soon.
That was Jim Braun. He's with Tri-State Retirement Incorporated. And this segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done to educate consumers, grow their practices, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.